Thank you so much for joining me on the show, gentlemen.
Thank you very much for the invitation to engage.
It's a pleasure. Now, first of all, let's briefly have your reaction on the Oval Office meeting between Presidents Trump and Ramaphosa. Briefly, please.
Is that me now?
Yes, that's you.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, like everyone else in the world who's forward-thinking and who's sober and is offering clear analysis on issues, were dismayed, but not necessarily shocked by the behavior of Mr. Trump. I mean, we see how it played out when he invited the president of Ukraine, President Zelensky, into the Oval Office. So it was somehow expected that there would be some gimmicks or playing in that meeting. But one has to give it to President Ramaphosa for how he handled himself and how he navigated a very difficult environment to be in. We all know that, you know, the entire setup was meant to humiliate him. It was meant to portray South Africa as this violent country with this unsubstantiated claims of white genocide, which you, as you rightfully mentioned earlier, that he could not produce evidence. In fact, he produced false evidence, and you know, using pictures from the DRC, using videos of opposition leaders who do not represent the current government of the day. And so, as to where from now, it remains to be seen. But yeah, that's my reaction. It was childish as usual, nothing that we did not expect.
All right, now, Siyabulela, President Ramaphosa, when confronted, you know, was really, really calm. He remained calm, and some South Africans have actually praised his composure, yet others actually felt the visit was a PR stunt. Which side do you think reflects the true mode on the ground? What does this say about, you know, South Africa's diplomatic posture versus the U.S.'s current engagement style? Because it's similar to what happened with Ukrainian president. Please go ahead.
Of course, I mean, there'll be those who are opposed, you know, diametrically opposed to common sense. You know, when you are dealing with someone like President Trump, one, you need to understand that, as most of the American media has correctly characterized him as a child, you are dealing with someone who's very, you know, easily excited by misrepresentation of facts. And so how the president handled this matter, in my personal opinion, it was very professional. It was a demonstration of statesmanship, and it showed diplomacy on his side, you know. And how President Trump behaves, he always behaves that way. And as I said earlier, that it was expected that he was going to behave that way. Those who are criticizing President Ramaphosa perhaps are making a huge mistake of thinking that, you know, global politics, they're reducing global politics to local politics, whereby they'll be heckling when the president is speaking, and then we'll be dealing with local issues. There you need to understand that the president, as you would have listened when we were speaking, his focus was on trade relationships between the U.S. and South Africa. And you'd know that over 6,000 U.S. companies are operating in South Africa compared to South African companies in the U.S. So that could mean, if the meeting goes left, millions, thousands of South Africans could be out of work. And so the president was focused on that. All these other things were a distraction. No one, including Mr. Trump himself, does not know that there is no genocide in South Africa. And so for me, the South African delegation was fully prepared, and they knew the kind of person they were dealing with. Hence, they had to center their response on the discussion on the trade, on the importance of trade. And the president did say that they are going there to reset trade relations between USA and South Africa. And so for me, that was the most important thing. Those who are criticizing him, of course, the criticism is baseless, in my opinion, because of how they feel about how the president is handling some of the domestic issues, which is, for me, you know, it's unnecessarily. Can I just quickly say that I wish to categorically mention that there is no white genocide in South Africa. There is no, in any shape, form, and form. There is no, even if you look at the numbers, in 2024 alone, we had over 26,000 murders in South Africa. Only 44 of those were linked to farms, and only eight victims of those were actually farmers. And by the way, that include workers, and the workers are predominantly black in South Africa, people who are working in these farms. And so this narrative that is being peddled by Elon Musk, by the right racist wing of South African civil rights groups such as AfriForum and the president of the US himself, are incorrect and unsubstantiated, and they must be rejected by all forward-thinking people of the world.
But why do you think, that the issue of, white farmers being killed continues to gain traction? Why do you think that, especially abroad?
No, it's because there's a concerted effort and a very well-oiled machine, propaganda machinery that is sponsored by world powers and rich men and wealthy people such as Elon Musk and the President of the United States. And these people are the ones who control our sources of media, such as X. So it is easy for them to perpetuate propaganda. And another thing that we need to be aware of was that President Trump was not necessarily addressing President Ramaphosa in that meeting. He was speaking to his constituency, and his constituency is racist, is right-wing. It believes that black people are subordinate to white people, and therefore blackness, or rather white death, must be exceptionalized. I mean, how do you explain that in a country of 60 million people, where on average 72 murders occur in a day, and most of them are black, and then you come out and say that there is a white genocide or there is farm attacks. So this whole thing is a PR exercise to exceptionalize white death, but also to say that the death of black people does not matter much. And there's also business ambitions that are also there from the side of Mr. Elon Musk himself. You would have seen that today there is communication from the South African government that could potentially allow Starlink to operate in South Africa. So those are some of the reasons why these people keep doing. They know very well that there is no white genocide in South Africa. One of the videos that Trump played there of those crosses, a white Afrikaner came out and said that was an awareness-raising campaign. Those are not graves, but they knew all those things, but still they went ahead in front of the whole world and played those videos. So to answer you, this is going to continue, by the way, because of the very same constituency I was referring to, that he was addressing the white racist right-wingers who believe that blackness is subordinate to whiteness, and therefore white death must be exceptionalized, and then if white people are killed, the whole world will stop. This is a criminality issue. We have a crime problem in South Africa, and that is what needs to be addressed.
All right. Now, I hear you there, Siyabulela. Now, but let's go back to the Oval, a bit. How do you interpret, the fact that Donald Trump showed a graphic photo which was later proven to be from Congo as evidence of violence against white South Africans? Now, he also played a video of EFF leader Julius Malema making fiery remarks about land and race. What kind of impact does this false information by figures with global reach, like U.S. President Donald Trump, have on South Africa's international image?
I mean, of course, it's damning. It's damaging to the brand South Africa. It seeks to achieve its nefarious agendas. We all know that. But anyone who is in the rightful state of mind will know that the evidence that was produced there, one, it's fake. As you rightfully mentioned, the images of the Congo that were used, that is not right. Secondly, even the video of Mr. Julius Malema that was played there, I did mention earlier that one, Mr. Malema is a leader of an opposition party. Secondly, his views do not necessarily reflect those of
South Africa.
policy considerations in South Africa. And also his sentiments do not reflect those of the South African government. And so to take that as proof of genocide is futile. It does not make sense, and it's baseless. What this does to the international community. I also wish to thank, those who have come out in support of South Africa, such as the European Union, because they can see right through the lies, they can see through the propaganda. I'm prepared to tell you here and now, without any fear of contradiction, that the only people who believe that there is white genocide in South Africa is racist right-wingers who believes in the lies that they tell themselves. It's those who believe in President Trump. It's those who believe in AfroForum in South Africa, who believe that white death must be exceptionalized. But there has been a pushback. South Africans are speaking, forward-thinking Africans are speaking, white South Africans are speaking. There are farmers, white Afrikaner farmers in South Africa who are speaking against this, that are saying, President Trump, you are lying. There is no such a thing that is happening in South Africa. But he insists, and he insists because there is a plan to delegitimize even South Africa's case against the apartheid state of Israel, the case that we have instituted at the International Criminal Justice Court. So this thing, it's got a lot of elements and angles to it, but people are beginning to see Trump for who he is, and I'm happy that he's been exposed. The entire world, even USA media, is calling him out on his lies.
Yes, even Justice Malala described, his ambush as an embarrassing moment, that highlighted decay of truth in American politics. But do you even think that, the president himself, that's President Donald Trump, sees any merit to such criticisms? Because there've been so much more besides this one.
Of course, and for me, what is more concerning, even it's not only Trump himself, but his entire support staff and people who are working on this campaign, they could not even do a basic a desktop research of the issues that they are raising. I mean, to play a video that even a South African court has pronounced on that song, by the way, that was saying there that it is not meant literal, and it said that there was no case against the song. Secondly, how would they go online and search images of Congo and use them as proof of genocide in South Africa? It tells you that these people cannot even point where South Africa is or where the DRC is in the Congo, which, by the way, is currently experiencing the real genocide. And they're not talking about that. There is the real genocide in the DRC. That's where we should be centralizing our collective efforts. There is genocide in Palestine, and it is a known secret that the USA is in fact an ally of Netanyahu, who is leading that process against the people of Palestine, who, by the way, until today, there's still blockage in Gaza, a blockage of aid to the Palestinians in Gaza. So they're doing this on purpose. They're doing it knowing fully well that, there will not be any consequences. In this instance, the electorate of the United States of America have failed the global community by electing a man such as Donald Trump into office. He does not care for human rights. He does not care for democracy and the rule of law. He does not respect his office, and he does not respect himself and the people that he's supposed to be leading. They failed to do a simple check. A simple image could have guided them that this is not happening in this country, it's happening in that country. But they could not do that. And we are supposed to now take people like that serious. It is a joke. They must be rejected and they must be isolated. They must not be taken any serious by anyone. But in conclusion on this point, I also wish to say that USA remains an important trade partner to South Africa. And so we should not forget that is the main reason why President Ramaphosa went there. And I think hopefully they have achieved their goal. And I've heard that maybe Donald Trump may make it to South Africa for the G20 conference. We hope he will come because President Ramaphosa must hand over the presidency of the G20 to him in November this year.
Yeah, that too. All right, now let's circle back to the Afrikaners that were resettled. That's the 59 of them that were resettled by the U.S. recently under the Trump administration's direction. I would love to hear your personal, view on this, right? How do you or other South Africans, by the way, view the selective refugee policy, especially when the same administration has drastically, limited asylum access for refugees from Sudan and also Palestine and some other, African countries as well?
No, I mean, they it's all a show. It's a drama, that thing that they are doing. In fact, if you hear the stories coming out of South Africa, you'll laugh that most of those people who are there, the 49 or the 51, whatever figure, they are not. Most of them are not even farmers.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of them was caught on camera saying that he left his mother. I mean, how can you be running away from a genocide and leave your mother or leave your family as if you are specially targeted? One of them is actually owning a garage. He was selling cars in Pretoria East and his business was not doing well. And another question we need to ask ourselves is if there's 49 farmers that have left the country, where are the farmers that they are owning? Because that means now that the country or the state is exposed to 49 farmers that are now unoccupied farms. I mean, unoccupied. Where are those farms? So what they are doing is just a show, and it again goes back to the point I was making of a racist right winger who is leading one of the most powerful economies in the world. Because why is he prioritizing white South Africans over other people? He's chasing away Asians, he's driving out Mexicans in the country, Venezuelans and all that, and he's giving priority. By the way, his own colleagues are calling him out. Some parliamentarians in the USA are asking this very same question we're asking. But I'll tell you why. It's because they are trying to exceptionalize whiteness. It is the arrogance of whiteness that they believe that white problems must take center stage above and over everything else in the world. So I wish to say that if it is possible that they can expedite the process of taking more Afrikaners from South Africa, they must do that, please, and they must do it with the agency that it deserves. We don't need any more racists in South Africa. Those who feel that there is genocide, they are free to leave. They've been given an opportunity to leave. I'm just not sure why the numbers are so low. And it remains to be seen how many more will be leaving. But what we are seeing here also, it's a scammer being scammed, because what these white Afrikaners are doing to him, they are actually scamming him, claiming to be farmers when they are not. Some of those people, they were car guards in South Africa. They were assisting with people parking lot in malls and so on and so forth. And now they're claiming to be farmers. So you must take all of them. They must leave South Africa and go where they will feel that they will be safe.
So in all of this now, do you think that, the South African government has been effective when it comes to countering these false narratives internationally? What more do you think, the government can actually do to get this done?
I'm very critical of the South African government's response to this entire saga, at least until the meeting with the President of the United States. I feel like a whole lot more could have been done to counter misinformation, especially on these online platforms. The government could have communicated more efficiently and more effectively to the general public of South Africa to say that there really is no genocide, and to dispel the fears that other white South Africans may have, because the idea of this entire campaign is to instill fear and to create an impression or an illusion that there is a racially inspired attacks in South Africa, when the motive has been proven time and again that the motive is actually robberies. It is not racially motivated. Just to mention that even an Afrikaner Union came out to say that they've counted around 1,360 something white farm murders since 1990. They've not even, I don't know what do they mean by, by genocide. But yes, the South African government could have done more and should do more to ensure that it educates the public, it goes to the international community and alleviates the fears of the people that has been made by these claims. Personally, I have been in Europe for the past 5 months now, and of all the platforms that I've received, I've always made sure that I raise this issue that there is no white genocide in South Africa. So we are seeing a very well orchestrated and fully funded campaign by the US and Donald Trump, as well as Elon Musk and some very wealthy white people in South Africa. So we must use the little that we have, especially those of us who are outside South Africa currently. But the government has got an important role of ensuring that the fears of the people of South Africa and the global community are alleviated and that their aspirations are still protected, and the rule of law and human rights preservation shall prevail in South Africa as we try to, right the wrongs of the past and continue the project of reconciliation in South Africa. There's good men and women in South Africa, black and white, but there are those who are ensuring that every day they wake up to put a bad name on South Africa, and we cannot allow that.
Speaking of putting a bad name on South Africa, what about the media? How do you evaluate the role that South African media, is playing in clarifying the facts around, rural crime and also in debunking the white genocide claim? Are they doing enough as well?
The South African media has been playing their part very well. I will not lie to you. From what I've seen, the South African media has been reporting fairly on this issue, because you cannot expect a media, as you yourself, as you are sitting there, you're a professional, you cannot confidently report on lies without checking them and verifying them. And South African media has been doing exactly that. They've been reporting on facts, they've been reporting on statistics, they have been looking at the figures and not just waking up and saying, yeah, so a few white people were killed in South Africa and therefore that constitutes a genocide. So they've been doing their part pretty well. And I must also, give a shout out even to the US media, because since after that meeting between our president and President Trump, they've gone and did their own research. BBC sent some people to the site, BBC Africa sent people to the site where there's those crosses were supposed to be graves. And when they got there was nothing. And they were told it was a temporary campaign to raise awareness. And so the media has honestly been playing its part. And I thank you guys as well, because by giving us platforms such as this to have discussions with dissenting voices as well, it also gives us an opportunity to tell the truth and the real narrative about what is happening in South Africa. Is it doing enough, the media? Of course, more can be done. Of course, more should be done. But what I have seen up until this point, I put no blame in any media in any country for how this thing has been handled.
Okay. Well, while we wrap up, we'd love to have your final thoughts, and also let's find out what's happening on the ground, especially how these type of incidents, are affecting interracial relations within South Africa. Do you think that, the interference, that's foreign interference or even commentary, even misinformed, stokes internal divisions within South Africa?
South Africa is a very resilient country. We have survived a whole lot more, and we are still going to survive a whole lot more together, both black, white, coloreds, Indians, whatever. South Africa is a very resilient country. We are united in our diversity, and when challenges like this come, we've always faced them together, not necessarily turning a blind eye on the injustices of the past. We are fully aware of where we come from. We are fully aware of the project that lies ahead of us, the continuous project of reconciliation, the continuous project of ensuring that we protect democracy and we protect the universal respect and preservation for human rights and the rule of law. And we are working through, this time together, all South Africans. Of course, there are those few who are on this project of painting South Africa as this country that is barbaric, as a country that is out to kill white farmers. The racial divisions are there, yes, they've always been there, pre and post apartheid, and we are working through them. That is why I'm saying that those who feel that they don't want to be part of this rebuilding project, then they must lately leave South Africa. These processes, especially around land redistribution, were designed to right the wrongs of the past. You cannot have a country like South Africa where 80% of the population, which is black, owns only 4% of the land. And we have white people who make up about 7 or 8% of the population, yet they own between 72% to 80% of the land. That says that the rate of inequality is too high. And so when there are measures that are being designed to try and address this, people start crying that there is genocide. There is no genocide. It is just a group of men and women who want to feel special at the expense of others. So, but as to the question of divisions, they are there, but we are working through them. There are good white people in South Africa. There are good black people in South Africa. There are Afrikaner farmers in South Africa who have committed to stay and work with black people and fight and share the resources of the land. And by the way, just to also say that the land of South Africa must be returned to the rightful owners, and the rightful owners are the black people of South Africa. So the government must be supported in its effort to try and redistribute land, to try and build the economy and make sure that the people of South Africa are benefiting from the land of their ancestors. That land is ours, and those who feel that they don't want to share it must leave South Africa. No one is going to beg them to stay.
All right.
They must do so quietly. They must do it quietly and allow us to work and rebuild our country.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and for your, opinion on this particular topic. Siyabulela Jentile, international human rights defender in Paris, France. We appreciate you for your time.